Hello, my name is Sydney Alder, and I'm excited to share my oral presentation on Greek masks. This is a topic that has interested me for quite some time, and I'm interested in all types of masks as well. It's a very interesting thing to add to a performance and just be a part of the theater in general. But before we really get into Greek masks a little bit more, I kind of want to talk about the origins of Greek theater because it's very important to understand how this affected the rest of modern theater. Now, of what we know, theater has come from ritual, and one of the most popular rituals, you could say, was the festival of Dionysus. He was the god of wine, fertility, kind of also with goats in some way. He could be like a goat god because people would sacrifice goats in his honor, but they'd also drink a lot of wine and party. But at this festival, there was lots of music, dancing, and a playwriting festival that would go on for 3 days, and then they would choose a winner. And getting into that a little bit more and understanding why there might be the need for masks, how many people were really on stage? So in Greek theater, there were only 3 people allowed on stage, and there would be a chorus, but that's it. And everyone who was involved in this production or in this performance, in this ritual, they were all men. At this time, women were not allowed to partake in such fun and manners. So that is part of the reason of why masks would be used. Because if men are the only ones on stage, then if they do need a female role or another god type character, or even like a small child character, let's say, or even like a demon character, then they're going to need to have a mask, or that's what they would do. They would use dramatic masks and costumes in order to help show different characters on stage, because at the time, that was the rules that the Greeks abided by. Another important factor to consider why the use of Greek masks. Well, here we have our stage. Greek amphitheaters don't really look like this anymore, but in their time, this might be a fully realized idea of how the outdoor amphitheater was set up. So we have our audience members kind of in a half circle. Right down here, that looks like the performance stage. That's called the orchestra. And any areas right here, those could also be used as a performance stage. And then this structure, that's kind of the back of that half circle, that would be called the skene. This is kind of what we would call our more modern set pieces, or a standalone backdrop. And there were entries and exit ways here and here, both sides. So seeing that this is outdoors, we have a lot of space and reach that the actors have to get their volume all the way to these audience members. And an interesting thing to kind of help with the outside noise is the shape of the theater. That way, the actors would be able to amplify and any background noise would be dimmed. But besides that, the mask use was really important because it helped, possibly based on research done, the mask would amplify the actor's volume just a little bit more. And in the study that I looked into, I will be putting that in my works cited. I can't recall the exact thing at the moment, but in that study, it was proven that with the mask on the actor, with the setup of the whole amphitheater, that the volume was increased considerably, and more specifically for the male actors on stage. Frequency was a really big thing, and somehow the Greeks figured out a way to get the sound out the way that they needed to. So after kind of sharing the possible use of why the mask was necessary for the stage, besides it also being a very important part of the Dionysus festival and ritual, the materials that the mask was made of was also just quite interesting, because they're made of linen, was usually some type of plaster or an animal glue. Sometimes they'd be made out of twigs, just materials that couldn't really last long. And there was a reason for that. These masks were meant to just be used for the performance, and either in some sacrificial way or ritualistic way blessed to Dionysus after that performance was done, or they just do the performance once and get rid of the mask. It was just kind of what they did. I think it was part of the fact that they wouldn't be doing the play multiple times, so they might have thought that there wasn't a use in keeping the mask. But there are some masks that are available to see and are kept, but the fact that they've been doing the festivals for a long time, a lot probably did not survive, and some of the masks that did survive weren't most likely masks that were used, just because they were cast or created in a different way that wouldn't make sense for performance because of weight, but more of the decoration and possibly just the remembrance of the Greek masks that were used in the festival. Acting. So a really good example of a Greek mask. I'm not sure if these were, I don't think these were original. I'm not sure if they were actually based on an original Greek mask, but they do look how a Greek mask would look. They have the open eye, very small holes usually, but just a little bit of a seeing agent, and then the mouth would be open quite wide, and the expression, well, the lack of expression really helped amplify the dramatics for a Greek play. And yes, there were some comedies, but the mask really it really helped the dramas, and I think that's what it was mainly for, to help dramatic action and plot. And because of the mask, because of the way the theater or the amphitheater was set up, the acting was very presentational, very presentational, and the expression had to be through the body completely. The body helped show the expression, and it drove the plot from your head to your toes, because in the mask, it was a full face mask, and given what the image is on the mask, you couldn't really take your emotions inside. You couldn't keep them internal. You had to push out. You had to let everybody see you full frontal. It is a very frontal way of acting because it makes you do that, or else the audience won't understand. And even the slightest like neck movement that you could use to help guide your head, that's going to help the audience significantly. So since I've been talking about the Greek masks, a lot of people think that the comedy tragedy masks that are completely involved in theater all the way are from the Greeks, when in actuality it was the Romans that put the comedy tragedy masks into practice. So it was a little bit after the Greeks. I just thought that was fun, and I just wanted to throw it in. And here are some more masks that I did kind of want to point out. The smaller eye holes, and then still the gaping mouth. This one has the closed mouth, but eye holes, gaping mouth. But all three of these are full face. This one specifically, I believe, was emulated in the test that I mentioned about the frequencies in the amphitheater space, which is, it's really, really interesting read because it does prove that the masks helped with the amplification process. And you can see how just the different kind of characters they might want to switch into, and they would do it. They might start with one character and then, realize they need to switch, and they'll just either go back and do that and change costume with it, or just change the mask. But besides the Greek masks, I do recommend looking into other types of masks that were used in the theater. It's really cool and really fun. So yeah, here is my work cited. I really hope that you enjoyed this presentation and you want to look more into Greek masks by finding the pictures that I found on DuckDuckGo, or what other people are creating for more modern shows. And the papers that I read were really, really good. So I look into that.